Hello, hello, it's me, Makeup by the Numbers. This year, I'm a little bit late getting up my second half of 2025. Empties up. I'm 4 days late, but whatever. Because I did a little traveling, had a little fun, and also I wanted to make sure I used up some very last minute things at the end of December. So I was able to get through 24 items. A lot of them aren't full-size items, so I'm not that particularly excited about the number. However, I am excited about the number of eye products, which will be coming up for last. Today, I'm going to try my ability to do this a little bit script-free. It's going to be different than the way it's usually done before, but I'm also going to try to speed this up so that these reviews don't take forever. That being said, they are, my opinion. I will say if I've gotten anything for free, 99% of the things I get, I buy with my own money. But I will also, I can tell you that my opinion, because these are empties, is very well established in how the makeup actually performed on me. And for background, I have very oily skin and live in a hot and humid climate, so my makeup does take a little bit of a beating. So let's get started. And I'm going to start off with perfumes, especially because I said I want to keep things going, and I always take too long talking about perfumes. So this is the Kayali Vanilla. Now, I love this scent. This is actually my first Kayali perfume. I know I'm way behind the power curve. My first perfume I've tried by them, and this is Vanilla Orchid, Tonka Absolute. And for the record, Tonka is my absolute favorite scent in the entire world. I would literally eat the perfume bottle. That is how much I love that scent. Brown sugar, amber woods, and musk. So that's the flavor profile of this. I've heard some people complain that Kayali is weak. I disagree after trying it. I really don't think of that, and that it's good for layering, but honestly I think if you like the scent you don't need to layer it. And this particular vanilla is complex enough to be worn on its own. I understand that people who like to layer perfumes need simpler scents. They need things like a vanilla and an amber, and those perfumes need to be separate, and then they can line them up and they can be better. However, this really does stand on its own, and it's one of my favorite scents. And for people who like that very overwhelmingly powerful vanilla sweet gourmand scent, this is the scent for you. Next up, I have the Jo Malone London. Now, I also loved this one. These are the last three of the Sephora's 10 for 10 sample sales that I could get. So there's only going to be three. And I saved all my favorite ones for last, hence why they're all vanilla flavored or scented. Again, don't eat them, don't eat them. I know I said I would, but I don't. It's lavender marin tonka, and it was absolutely phenomenal. Not my favorite, simply because it was very, very, very sweet. So this was sweet, but it was sweet like vanilla. This was sweet, but it was sweet like lavender marin tonka. There was no counterbalance to it. And Jo Malone says to pair it with English pear and freesia, and I don't know. I don't love her fruity floral scents. This was my favorite scent by her, because again, probably because it has that tonka in it. But I don't think tonka is heavy enough to be a base note, and I think that it needed to have a little more depth and complexity in it. But other than that, again, I loved it. If it sounds like your profile and you like Jo Malone, you'll probably like this. And then coming up is Net the Vanille. I'm probably not saying that right. And this is another, this is another one that I talk about when I talk about complex vanillas. So this was on the top notes, salt accord, cardamom. I don't know, it didn't feel like I say that right. I eat it and I love the way it tastes, but I also love the way it smells. Turmeric and green tea. In the middle was Narcissa Absolute, Magnolia, and in the base is Orris and Vanilla. And I honestly don't know what 2 or 3 of those ingredients are, but I liked it. It was vanilla scented without being overwhelmingly vanilla. Personally, I think that some of the flavor profiles, again, I said flavor, I mean scent. The scent profiles were a little bit too light. They aren't very heavy, and I could have used more of some of those base notes, because certain scents like salt and tea and magnolia, those are all very light scents, and they don't really work well to power themselves. I will also tell you, the little thing on the card, this little vanilla program, makes absolutely no sense. It doesn't smell like Tokyo or clouds or town. Like, it's just the most pretentious thing, but again, most people do not care about that sort of thing, and I guess I don't at the end of the day either. But I think out of the three, the best one by far was the Kayali. And I will probably very, very soon be done with a Maker, which is another vanilla scented perfume. And that one takes top marks for that gourmand scent. But moving up, my next category, yay, I got through perfumes in 5 minutes. That's a record. My next category is going to be cleansers. So I'm reaching over here for 2 of them. So I am a diehard fan of micellar water because I have sensitive eyes and I needed to get the residual makeup from around my eyes that I didn't get with my first cleanse. So when my favorite brand stopped selling micellar water, I've been trying micellar waters pretty much until I find my new holy grail, and I haven't found it. This one's pretty good. I'm a little disappointed because there are some ingredients in it that don't need to be in it, like chamomile and things like that. But it was very soothing. It didn't leave a residue. It didn't foam or bubbles, showing that there's soap glycerides in it. And it performed really well. And it didn't cost an arm and a leg. So I would not say this is the holy grail, but you're asking for like, would I use it again and do I recommend it? The answer is yes, I would use it again and I do recommend it. That being said, by not paying attention, I saw the word micellar makeup remover and didn't really look more into that when I was replacing it with the Curology that I was going to try next. And this is actually an oil-based cleanser. Now, because I have oily skin, I despise oil-based cleansers. I don't need any more of that on my skin than I have to. However, this one is super effective. It's more effective at removing makeup than a traditional micellar water because, again, it's an oil-based remover. But this one also is anti-comedogenic. It's not supposed to clog your pores. It's also fragrance-free. It's also ophthalmologist tested, so it's good for delicate eyes, and it's super effective. And I think not having to rub and being able to remove makeup cleanly and efficiently is really good if you have sensitive eyes. So I actually prefer this because I'm not using it as a standalone. I'm using it with another cleanse. I have found that I could just use this first, remove most of that really heavy, nasty eye makeup, because I wear a lot of eye makeup, and then follow it up with your all-over cleanser. So I just reverse or switch the order, and I end up with a really, really good cleanse. So this is my new go-to. I think I'm going to keep using this as my new holy grail until I find something else, because that's how much I liked it. So yes, I recommend it. Yes, I would use it again. And that yes stands for even if you have oily skin like I do, because it works phenomenally. The next cleanser I tried, I got this as part like of a little kit. So there were a whole bunch of minis. And this is the Glow Recipe Blueberry Bounce Gentle Cleanser. And I do like the way it smells. It does smell like blueberries. I am a fan of Glow Recipe in general. And it did a pretty decent job. And it did leave my skin very dry though, so it doesn't get full points for that. It could have been a little more hydrating. But my real trouble with it is how thick the gel cleanser was. It didn't even work in this application pump. It was so thick it didn't want to go up, and it could come out the spout. I don't know what you call the pump mechanism. You could put it in my hand and turn my hand upside down and it would stay there, like, you know, like it was Dairy Queen. I don't know. That made it a little too difficult to use. It's a small issue I had, but enough that when you're paying money for brands like Glow Recipe, I would consider Glow Recipe mid-tier. You know, it's not a drugstore brand. I expect a little bit of pricing that elevates it just a little bit more until the experience is actually enjoyable. And to be that clumpy and that thick and have to struggle to spread it and get it to lather up, even if it's just an extra few seconds on the wash, is a few seconds that I really don't want to have to take my time to do, especially with a product like this, because all they had to do was add a little bit of water, and they would even have more profit out of that. So I'm not too impressed with it. I'm not going to recommend it or buy it again because of that. However, you have it, definitely use it up because it is a good product and an effective cleanser. And then last but not least, I have my Juno Skin 10. This is my holy grail balm, both on the scent, the application, the effectiveness, and the price. I have no complaints about this. This is the 4th or 5th now. I don't know what I'm on for this. And of course, you know, just to prove that it's panned, you know, it's done. Oh, you just see a white glow, but that's because it's empty. So really, really happy with that. Now, next up I have like my moisturizer and primer category. And for those of you who don't know, I am on like a self-inflicted I will never buy moisturizer campaign. I get them in samples. I get them as sides in my cart. I get them gifted. I am known to rob a hotel room or two. And I just think for someone who has very low secondary moisturizing needs, I don't go through a lot of moisturizer. I can get away with that. So I'm not saying that to toot my own horn. I'm just saying that to explain to you why I have so little moisturizer. But also why I try such a wide variety of like mini products, as that's literally what I'm about. I'm not on a no buy for moisturizer. I actually absolutely justify buying it. I just don't. And I live sample to sample. But anyway, here is a honey hand cream by Le Homo. Now this was in a hotel room and I wasn't too impressed with the green tea version. It didn't smell that great and it was just a moisturizer. And for a brand like this that you can get on Amazon that's got like a pretty good reputation, but also really affordable, I was kind of disappointed in that. But I will tell you, the honey, it didn't smell like overly sweet and artificially scented. It smelled like honey, like if you were to smell a bottle of honey. So I was really impressed by how they capture that scent. And because I liked the scent and the application, I got to focus a little bit more on the actual product and go, no, this is not that bad. This is one of those products that for the price is really good, and they have a whole lot of other samples. So if I were in the market for it, I probably would try this in a whole bunch of other scents. And I remember to say scents instead of flavors this time. So I'm not going to buy it again, but I do recommend it. If you're in the market and you like this type of product, a basic, effective, but not luxury moisturizer, like Le Homo is really safe to go. Next I have the Glow Recipe Watermelon Glow Pink Juice Moisturizer. Come on, guys, start naming your products seriously. And it's a pretty decent moisturizer. And like I said, I am a fan of Glow Recipe. I think on the whole their products perform well, and I don't think this was an exception. It is a good product. It has a very nice luxury feel to the bottle. Everything in it worked. I do wish, even though this is a mini, it's not a sample, I do wish there were a little bit more in the mini size. And I do think it needed to be thinner. This was very, very runny, and I'm okay with that, but it was too runny for my liking. It definitely they could have take some of the extra water in here and put it in here, and they would have had two amazing products. But this was not my cup of tea, even though the watermelons smell nice, and even though it's a nice moisturizer. It's almost like the kind of moisturizer that you have to put on wet and then put a thicker oil-based, or like, those types that feel like petroleum jelly over that to trap in the moisture. So I didn't feel this was a good product standalone, but I do have a couple other minis because I hoarded them. And so I'll go through them because they're nice and they're effective and they smell nice. But again, it's just, there was absolutely no luxury feel. And it was really easy to use, more than you could ever use, like if you were just doing your face or something, because it was so thin. Really killed the luxury vibe of that. So I'm not going to recommend it, and I'm not going to buy it again. That being said, if it's in your collection, it's good. Use it up. But I won't be out, passing it out like candy on Halloween. Who does that? No one does that on Halloween. But anyway, next up I have the Pharmacy. This is, make sure I got the name of this right, 10% niacinamide Night Max. Smooth and refines pores. Okay, niacinamide is vitamin B. Again, another ridiculously thick product, but it made application make sense because you're supposed to use really small amounts. You get a little dab, put it on your finger, put it on your eyes, it works great. My problems with this is it smooths and refines pores. One, most people don't have a pore problem in their under eye section. I've got large pores, and I can confidently say my under eyes are not the problem area. So I think this is one of those examples of the marketing getting a little too gimmicky and not really paying attention to the concerns that people are looking to solve in a night mask. They probably have dryness, puffiness, redness, flakiness, wrinkles, something like that. But not maybe, and maybe some people do have large pores. Maybe this is their product, but I don't think niacinamide in particular is known to do that. It's more of a skincare product anyway, not a silicone-based blurring product. And being a night mask is very thick and it's heavy and sticks on the skin, which is my first complaint. It is sticky. It goes on sticky, it stays sticky, it dries on sticky, and you get sticky on your pillowcase. You get sticky on your sheets, you get sticky if you rub your hand, and it stays there and it doesn't go away, kind of like you might expect with petroleum jelly. Very unpleasant experience overall. Secondly, there's nothing in particular about this that justifies pharmacy pricing. It's 10% niacinamide. You get niacinamide in many, many, many skincare products nowadays, many, many cosmetic products, because we know the great properties that having, healthy, nourished skin has. I don't even know if putting vitamin B topically on your skin is the best way to actually give yourself a healthy glow, but this was just incredibly, incredibly unpleasant, and I didn't use it consistently enough to see any visible results because it was so unpleasant, but I also saw nothing from it. It's really good if you need a chapstick around your eyes. Like, it's super windy where you go out and you have like a balaclava on and you need, this will be great for that. But I don't live in that type of climate. I don't live in some place where it's cold and windy. I live in San Antonio, for those of you wondering. So it was just not for me. And it took me forever to use it because I hated using it so much. I really thought I would have this panned a year ago. Just so I can't be accused of not saying anything positive, I have dropped this at least 3 times and shattered parts of the bottom off this glass container multiple times, and never cracked the container or had it shatter into 1,000 pieces. So I guess whatever tempered glass this is made out of is real good, because you can see I've lost most of the edge here. But it was not a safety hazard from dropping it so many times. Again, because your fingers are going to be oily and slick when you're handling it. So overall it's good, but the container's good, but that's like the only positive thing I can say about it. I absolutely hated using this, and because of this and another product I had with pharmacy and one product that I love receiving a bad batch of it, this was the final thing that I've used from pharmacy, and because I'm actually like fallen out of love with that brand, and I am not going to buy it again because of shenanigans like this. It's not worth spending pharmacy dollars and getting something that is less enjoyable than just going and buying Dove off a commercial shelf. So not a fan of that. Don't like it. Don't recommend it. And then I'm kind of bouncing back and forth. I have another Glow Recipe product. You can tell I ordered from Glow Recipe this year. This is the Strawberry Smooth BHA AHA Salicylic Serum. The serum is a little bit better if you have dry skin, and it's a little more gentle to have the BHA and AHA. However, I have oily skin, and I can actually tolerate the straight up BHA just fine. I'm of the generation you can go into a grocery store and you could just buy straight up salicylic acid. We would buy astringent and we would put that on our face and go, and it would suck our, it would probably cause more problems than it solved, because our skin would immediately start producing more oils. But that's the kind of generation that I was, and that's truly my skincare needs, because I'm that oily. But this is a little bit more gentle, and it's a little bit thinner, and I could really see it having a place in a lot of people's products. I enjoyed it. I thought it was great makeup prep. I will, however, say that for oily skin, I prefer the Strawberry Smooth that comes in the plastic oval container. It's not a serum, but it's just straight BHA, so it's better if you're oily skinned, and it dries down a little bit faster because it's a little bit thicker if you're doing it before your makeup, and you can actually use that as skincare as well. So I prefer that one, but I was very happy with this one, and I don't regret using it. I'm not going to buy it again because I prefer the other version, but I do recommend this, and I recommend it for the average person, because again, the average person is going to tolerate the serum version a lot better than the straight up BHA version. So that was like a win for Glow Recipe, pretty much. If they can get their consistencies right, they have some really nice formulas. Now, next up, let's see if I can actually reach over here. I have them stretched out across my desk. I have 4 face products, which is really exciting. Usually don't get to go through 4. But I have, the first thing was my KVD Good Apple Serum. I really like how this dried down. I love the full coverage. I love the super matte finish. This received very high reviews, which is one of the reasons I bought it when I was in the market for a full coverage foundation. and it stands out. I will probably keep this for an alternate view just so I can go into it in more detail, but it is incredibly full coverage, incredibly drying. It's great for oily skin girls. It's not so drying that I think it might give you problem areas, but again, if you have dry skin, you probably don't want to go for this type of super matte and super full coverage to begin with. It's one of the mattest, if not the mattest foundations I've tried. Now I like that, again, because I've got breakthrough oil halfway through the day anyway. And I do really think it has a good shade match because it does dry down a little bit cooler, and since I have very pink undertones, I was very flattered. However, as I started to tan, this shade on me did start to look a little ghostly, and I was having to use extra bronzer, contour, and blush to kind of camouflage how pale I was. So I had to take a break in the summer, even though I'm always pale. I don't get any darker than this. It became super evident that this was a little bit dark. However, I'm not going to buy it again because I'm working on some other really fantastic formulas that are just, I think they're a little bit more, I don't want to say in vogue, but they are. They're just a hair lighter. The finish is a more natural or satin matte, and they just feel more flattering because they're not as heavy looking. The formula is pretty light, but I feel like this is going to be niche for a lot of people who want that 100% full coverage. And I am kind of moving away from that myself because I'm getting older and I need to actually start worrying about my fine lines, and I'm preferring formulas that are a little bit more comfortable. So I love this. I do recommend it, but I'm not going to buy it again. It's for a certain person, and I'm not sure I'm that person anymore. If you're wondering what kind of person I am, I think I'm becoming a one-size person. But KVD was good while I had it. Next up, I also panned this tutor, and I got this tutor as a Christmas gift, or it was supposed to be a Christmas gift, but my husband doesn't know that he needs to shade match, which is very sweet, but very ignorant. He did not know he needed to shade match when he ordered the foundation. So I ended up getting shade matched in this shade, and this is the natural matte finish. They have a glowy finish and they have a matte finish, and this is the in-between one. And it's the full size. You have you have the sponge. You can tell there's not really in it because nothing's coming off anymore, like nothing. And I've even flipped the sponge in and out several times to get through it. And I will say two things about it. First is I don't understand why people take the application, and I'll even demonstrate for you, why they take the application and they do this. Is that how you put on your makeup? Why would you do that? You don't do that with a brush. You don't stipple with your brush. You don't stipple with your sponge. Some people stipple with their sponge, but I don't, because I do things fast rather than doing things well. I've come to peace with myself about that. But you end up with a little bit of texture from that stippling. So if you just put it on and you go super, super fast, like a video I did earlier with my makeup, I just used my fingers. You put it on, you wipe the same way you would with a brush or a sponge or a silicone sponge, and you get a smoother, more even finish, and it's faster. So that's the one thing I'll say about it. The second thing I'll say is, even though this is a really, really good price, think about how much product you're getting. So this is 0.63 ounces, and oh shoot, I don't know how much this is. 1 ounce. 1 ounce. So even though this, at the time, the non-sale price was $25, and I believe this was $50, this was about the same price, only marginally less expensive. So that's something that I would keep in mind. It feels like a good deal until it's really not. That being said, I managed to pick mine up on some sort of crazy sale and got it for $10, which is a fantastic deal. So I would definitely recommend, if you can find these on sale, find them. But the finish, I'm talking about the price and the packaging and the application, because that's all I can talk about. The finish is perfect. It's lightweight, semi-full coverage. It's not the fullest coverage. I mean, I'm comparing it to this. But for most people, you can build to full coverage. And it's just a really effortless product. The only thing I will say is I do need to use my fingers around my nose to get it to blend there, because this application just isn't quite suited for that. But I'm probably not going to buy it again, because again, I do want a little bit more full coverage look. But again, just because I'm not buying it again because it wasn't for me doesn't mean I don't recommend it. If you're thinking about Tortoise, you've been on the fence, the foundation and the coverage, if you want that natural or slightly glowy finish that's medium coverage and lightweight, natural glow, this is absolutely great. So I do recommend it. Next up, I have the Easy Bake and Snatch by Huda Beauty. I don't like the little sponge she has. I didn't even save it, but as you can see, I panned it. I tried to get around here and I ended up breaking it out. But I go through a powder about every 4 months, and this is the second one that I had by Huda because I bought the Cherry Blossom one and thought it was great, but I'm like, what's her regular one like? So I switched to a different pink powder and got this one in the regular complexion, and honestly, I don't think it matters. I think I prefer the pink because I like the pink because it complements my skin tone. But this is just a flawless, easy to apply, skin perfecting, smoothing, blurring primer that's hard to over apply and looks good and lasts a pretty decent time, like 4 to 6 hours for a finishing powder is par for the course. And I think for the price, the formula matches. I know there's other brands that have a similar finish, like Charlotte Tilbury and Hourglass, but for the price, you're going to pick this one every time. So I might repurchase it, but I'm going through 2 others in my collection, so I'm on the fence about it. But again, I do recommend it, whether you choose one of the correcting tones like the pink or a skin tone one. Both of them are absolutely fantastic. And then last up, I panned this. Now this is my Dior concealer. It's in Rosy 0 because I like my concealer to be a little bit lighter than my foundation, and that means I have to get like the lightest concealer possible, like the color next to white. And I like this. This is a medium coverage. Very, very creamy, lightweight formula, which because I wear full coverage foundations, I don't want to put a full coverage concealer on top of that. That's too much. So I actually prefer the little bit lighter weight coverage. This went well with the Dior Backstage foundation, but the Dior Backstage concealer obviously stands on its own. I think Morgan Turner reviewed the worst products of Dior, and she had this on there, and she said it's not even that bad. And I kind of agree. If this is their worst product, the brand's doing okay. Because it's lightweight, good coverage, good color matching. I really enjoyed it. The only reason I didn't buy it again is because I wanted to try other brands, and I want to keep that lightweight feel and get higher coverage, because that gives me the opportunity to use the concealer as a foundation if I want, or it gives me the opportunity to get a color correcting shade, or to get a heavier or lighter. I wanted to play around with more concealers. But for medium coverage lightweight concealers, I still think this one is a really good option. So I'm not going to buy it again because I didn't. I bought the High Glam because, I mean, who turns down Natasha Denona? But I do recommend this. If you like the Dior products, already have Dior foundations in your line, this complements them really well. Although it probably doesn't stand out to buy it on its own, I do recommend it. I'm also really happy to go through concealers because I don't go through a lot of concealer. I don't wear concealer every day because you don't need concealer every day. I know a lot of people who just use concealer and a lightweight foundation. I'm the other way. I use a heavy foundation, and a lot of times I don't even bother with the concealer. But that's most of the products, and I'm on a mission to get through everything. So next up we have two mascaras, a lippy, and 2 liners. So I'll go with the lippy. It's the only lippy I went through. I don't go through these a lot. But this was on I've got to get this out of my collection. So I got this in an Ipsy or BoxyCharm around 2018. I don't know who Gigi Gorgeous was. I didn't follow her then. I don't follow her now. I don't know what happened to the company. But I was going to use this lip gloss because it was clear and sparkly and beautiful, and I couldn't waste it. I will say it was really, really thick. It might have been thick at the time, but by the time I finished it, it was probably thick enough, and I'm kind of glad I got through it when I did. It didn't smell and it didn't taste bad, but I'm glad I finished it now. 8 years later. That was I probably did not need to finish it 8 years later. That's the first time I've ever said that out loud. I might go through my collection and see if I have anything else that age, and I might actually do declutter now that I've said that out loud. And I'm so against declutter, but I'm also against giving myself bacterial infections, so I might have to make that decision. Um, but, you know, I've gotten everything I can out of it, and it was beautiful. You can't buy it again, so I can't buy it again, and I wouldn't. I don't need another clear lip gloss, but this just gave you all that shine and shimmer and this beautiful pink, which on me is really, again, really flattering. And I can't even recommend it, but again, I'm glad I got through it. Never stop trying. Unfortunately, I'm still buying lippies. I need to put myself on a low buy until I stop buying them, but I'm still buying lippies and not going through them. I bought 3 this year and only went through 1, but I'm working on it. Next up, I have 2 mascaras. Now I have this Too Faced Better Than Sex and this Tartelette tubing mascara. I will start with the Tartelette because I've used an entire tube of this before, and it's currently what I'm using now. It's my favorite tubing mascara, and it's one of my favorite mascaras. It's not the most dramatic mascara, but it's the most natural looking, lengthening mascara. I like to keep my lashes separate and just have like super, super long, amazing looking lashes. And this tubing mascara does that, and it also behaves very much like a tubing mascara. So, you know, I get out of the shower and I just literally wipe it away because it's rolled up in little pills versus having, you know, that black tear stained look. So it's my preferred look for anybody who's looking for that uber long but still very clearly defined lash. And I also like the application, which is plastic and spiky. That's also my favorite applicator. So I will continue to buy it. I have bought it again, and I have bought it before, and it was so it's definitely something I recommend. Next up, we have the Better Than Sex. Now, I will talk about naming because I think we need, and I never think women should be ashamed to stand up for themselves. Stop naming companies, please. Stop naming things in a provocative way that are dumb. It's just dumb. If this is truly better than sex, what you're saying is that women really don't enjoy sex because you can't have a mascara that's better than it, and I just think that's a really harmful narrative. And if you're saying this mascara is that good, then you're just ignorant. It's not better than sex. You're just trying to be edgy, and it's falling flat. And I'm not a prude. Oh, that's funny. I threw it. I'm not a prude. I'll go for a good fart joke. Okay, I love the Tones of Turd palette, but it's a mascara. Okay, it's like that palette that came out and the all epithets for women. Not okay with that. I'm not okay with being called a bitch by a company that's trying to take my money. I will never buy from that brand. This isn't to that level. I probably would buy this mascara because I really, really liked it, but it is the opposite of the Tartelette. It has this really, really thick hourglass pipe cleaner style brush. It goes on very dark and bold and thick. It gives you an amazing lash look, but it does not give you clean, natural lashes. This is all about drama. Now, what's really cool about that is I do have a tubing primer by Tarte, and I was using that underneath this, and it works. It effectively turns this into a tubing mascara if you put it over that tubing primer. And that was really, really cool because I got the ease of application, or specifically the ease of removal. Technically, it's harder, so I have to do 2 steps. But the ease of removal with the tubing mascara, and I got to have this amazing, bold, gorgeous lash look. So I might buy it again. I did really like it that much. And I am going to recommend it if you're in for that look. Again, these are both amazing, but it's like apples to oranges. I can't tell you which one's better because they're so different. But this is one of my favorites. And I kind of want to do a comparison with another mascara that I like. I want to compare it with the Maneater and with the L'Oreal Telescopic because I think those 3 have similar vibes. And they're all like some of my top favorites. So if you're, again, I may not be buying it myself, but I definitely recommend it. And if you're wondering like why sometimes I choose the mini over the full size or the travel size over the full size mascara when you're trying to go through multiple different types of mascaras, having the 6 month shelf life, it makes sense to get a smaller tube so you know you can go through it. So that's the justification I have a lot of times for buying the travel size, even though it's more cost effective and there's less packaging in buying the larger size. It just kind of makes sense to, in this case, because of the shelf life, to buy the smaller package. Okay, I had to take a sip of water because I am parched from all this talking, but I did promise that I have 2 liners to go through. So I have a pencil liner. Can't sharpen no more, and I think all the product is pulled out of it now because I broke it trying to get the remaining pencil let out. This is the Vintage Cosmetic Company by Jessica Liebslung, and this color is in jet black, and it was smooth, creamy, aged very well. I had it in my gym bag, then took it out when I stopped going to the gym. I go to the gym now, but I just shower at home, so I don't need my liner in my bag. And it made me sad to go through it, but I've gone through so many pencils before I found this one, and I remember thinking, oh, this was so good. So I don't know if you can get it. I do have some vintage brushes as well, because I know those were out in the BoxyCharm era too, back when BoxyCharm and ISB were separate. So I definitely loved it. I definitely recommend it. It's one of my absolute favorite pencils. Just this good balance of to creaminess, to stay power, to drying down. Like, it was just the perfectly balanced pencil. It may not have stood out in any one way, but it was just like fantastically developed, and I'm really glad that I rescued it and used it again, because I've used a lot worse brushes or pencils in the meantime. And then the other, I made an order from ColourPop, so I decided to give them a second chance, because I don't like some of their products. And I decided to try their black eyeliner pencil, and it gave. It was black, it was inky, it was smooth, the pencil was sharp. I will say though, it died pretty quick. Pencils should last me at least 4 months, and I was barely getting that, and it was streaky down the middle and going dry, and then the tip was also the tip is ever so slightly broken on this one. So it's one of those, I would not say this is a good product, because it's not. It's a drugstore product. It's not that good, but for the price, I'm not mad. For a drugstore product, it's pretty good. And I know ColourPop isn't drugstore, but they kind of are. They kind of are, let's be real. So I'm going to give it really high marks. I'm going to say, no, I'm not going to buy it again, because I love eyeliner. I wear it every day. I wear a big, thick wing or a baby wing, but I always wear a wing. I always wear a liquid. I'm not going back to this, but if you said, would you recommend it? I'd be like, you got $7 in your pocket? Yes. I don't remember how much it cost me at the time, but I do tend to buy things on sale, so that could actually be a realistic number. Yeah, I'm not mad. And if you were thinking about getting it, I'd be like, go for it. So that's that. And then this is the coolest thing about panning all year, is I have tried a new product. I'm doing a no pan left behind challenge, and that has forced me to go through a lot of singles and older shadows that I don't touch anymore. And the first thing I will bring up is this set of 3. These are Tarte Sea glasses. I bought these years and years and years ago. They were not gifted to me. They were not thrown in a thing. I was all about this glitter eyeshadow. And this was, again, probably 2017, 2018. We were doing full glitter eyelids back then. And I've already used the gold. It dried out the last time I tried to use it, but as I was going through trying each of these on a different day, I went through the bronze, the rose gold, and the silver. And I was actually pleasantly surprised to find out that although the silver is really dried out, I had already popped the, I forget what the seal is called, but the brush cleanser to get to this. So what you're seeing is not a full container that's full to here. It's actually like down here, and this is just what's dried on the side. So I was actually really pleased to find out that even though when I reached for it, it was dry, it was also completely used, which is nice. And then I cannot say the same for the rose gold or the bronze, but when I was using it, I did make sure I got one last use out of this one before it completely dried up, so I popped out the cap as well. And then the bronze, just unfortunately, I didn't get to use it in time, so I did not pan it. But I did get to use it in the No Pan Left Behind challenge, and I also, this one's more than half full, so this is a slight loss for me. But I was able to clean out my collection and use what I had, and get a little bit of last love out of these. Now, as always, whenever you're throwing something out that you didn't fully use, that's a lesson learned. And the lesson learned for me is don't buy multi-packs of colors. You know, you're not going to go through all 4 of them. Don't buy a gold and a bronze. You're only going to go through one of those shades. Like, I know that about me. I'll go through pink and silver before I go through gold and bronze. So that's what I learned about this. That being said, I'm still really happy to find that I had made more progress on them than I had realized, in part because you can't have something for that many years and have it in your desk drawer and occasionally reach for it and not make some progress on it. But they were kind of rolling around at the back and just taking up space, so they're gone. Same thing for this Cover FX. Now, this absolutely was in a boxy jar, and I was able to use, again, most of it. I also pulled out the cap. It's goopy and full of bacteria. I don't want to put it on my eyes anymore. I kind of wish I had used it before because it was kind of like a natural, unnatural pink. The shade is Amethyst in the Shimmer Glow formula. So it just gave this beautiful hue and sheen to your eyes, but it wasn't full on glitter. It wasn't full on metallic. It was actually really wearable and really beautiful. It kind of hit that sweet spot. So I wish I had used it more, but I just don't tend to use creams or liquids because of the creasing. So that's kind of why this didn't get quite as full use. And this is one of the reasons, again, that I don't get these big box subscriptions sent to me. Is I get products that even if I love them, and a lot of times I don't, but even if I love them, I can't get through them. So I didn't really want that to be the case anymore. But this is a product that I'm getting to retire, knowing that I got as much use out of it as I could. However, I'm suspicious that was maybe half of it. It's hard to say because so much of it has dried down. It takes up a lot less volume than it did when it was new. But again, I'm still happy to use it products. I'm happy to use it products and have them out of my collection. Now, next up is ColourPop, and this is in the shade Tassel. Oop, the pan came out. This is the Pure White Glow. Sometimes I used it all over the lid. It was really great for Christmas and holiday seasons. I do like a really bright white lid with a red lip and a black wing. I just think that's really, really flattering. But it was my inner corner highlight. So I opened and closed this just about every day for a year, and I still couldn't get through it. Even with the frequency that I use it. So even though I love this ColourPop Super Shock formula, I'm like, if I couldn't get through the white tassel, I am not going to get through any other shade. Like, I know it's going to go bad on me because I know it's a cream and I know it'll dry down. Like, I want powders. Like, I have powders that have lasted for years. So what I did was I took it out and I mixed it with some highlighter, some powder highlighter that was also in a pink, and then I took the blushes from this, or the mattes from this Tarte palette, the white and the beige one, and I made like this shimmery pinky nude, and I mixed that in the pan, and that's why you see it not looking white and why it looks kind of like a pinky nudie brown, because it ended up becoming a blush when it was no longer suitable for my eyes. So I'm really proud that I was able to pan and use an entire product, and it also got me into this gosh awful Tarte palette, which we'll talk about in a second. So will I buy it again? No. I don't need any more inner corner highlights. It was an impulse purchase. I loved it. I'm glad I had it. I was happy to use it, but this chapter is over. I'm not going to rebuy it again. That being said, do I recommend it? It was a fantastic product, and I actually panned it. That speaks for itself. This is a good product. So if you like the ColourPop Super Shock formula and you haven't tried Tassel somehow, buy Tassel. So that's that. And then last, and this is the coolest part of this entire video, is this palette. I'm calling this panned. And I know you're looking at it and you're like, Jennifer, there's 5 shades in there you haven't touched. No, there's 5 shades in here that I won't ever finish, so I'm getting rid of it now. This is the closest thing to declutter. I pop this out. First, we're going to talk about the packaging and why I had to pop it out. This is a relatively small blush pan, and it's relatively close to all these shades. Some of these shades are not shades you would typically want for blush, and many of them are very glittery, so you can't have this very neutral, muted rose that it was. And not contaminated when you swirl a blush in it. You had to be really, really careful. And I was just tired of that, so just popped it out. Ended up panning it. Panned it like a year or 2 ago, when I was going through some really old blushes. So I just took care of that. But it's been sitting in my drawer almost untouched for a year, and I kind of said, you know what, I want this palette gone. I've got some palettes that are on the chopping block. I've always wanted to declutter it, but I couldn't because it was a pretty fresh palette. So I was using this as these 2 shades, a peachy brown shade that was a little too dark to be a transition shade on me because I'm really fair. On a lot of people it's perfect, and a white, which wasn't quite bright enough for in a corner, but it was a good transition shade for me. But even using that every day, I thought it was going to take a huge time, which is why I started scraping them, mixing them with my pink highlighter, and putting them here. And lightening these and mixing these 2 shades together made the right saturation for my cheeks. And it gave a little bit of shimmer, and it was a really beautiful blush in a shade that I wouldn't normally have purchased, but I was able to get through the 2 mattes, which are the decent formulas in this palette. Now, the rest of these formulas are a little disappointing. They don't have a super impactful shimmer because it's Tarte, and they don't know how to do super impactful shimmers. The color story isn't really complete. Without a matte, you just end up with golds, a blue, and a green shimmer, and they're all sort of mid-tone. These 2 shades don't swatch as dark, or maybe it's dark, but they swatch grayer. They're not like as pigmented and impactful. I didn't quite say that correctly, but like, you get what I'm saying. There's not a world in which I'm ever going to reach for these shades in this palette over another shade. They would ruin whatever look and vision I have in my mind. So I'm just scrapping the palette. I've used 100% of the shades that are worth using, and I do not want to use the remainder of this palette. I'm not going to sell it. I'm not going to gift it, so it goes in the trash. And I don't think that that is wasteful. I have used 100% of what I could. I have a little bit of buyer's remorse because I didn't know then what I know now about eyeshadow formulas and about what I liked and what I don't like. But that was part of learning for me. That was part of figuring out as I was learning to do my makeup, what formulas I liked, what looks did I like, what color stories did I like. And this wasn't it, but it wasn't a waste. I still learned a lot from it. I still got through 50% of the product in it, and it's more used than a lot of other palettes that I do like more. So I'm actually really, okay, I need to say something positive about it. It has a cute packaging. This is a flannel. It's not on straight. Can't have all wins. But overall, I'm really, really impressed with myself because I had 5 eyeshadow products, and that's, for me, that has never happened. So thank you for listening. If there's anything that you want to see me do an in-depth tutorial on, please let me know. I was not very religious about making sure that I said if I would recommend or not recommend anything at the end of every single product. I got most of them. So if there's one I missed and you want to know, put it in the comments. I'll be happy to let you know how I feel about it and if I would recommend it for you. And if you want to see me give you any more updates on I haven't done any updates, so let me know if you want to see what's going on in my No Pan Left Behind challenge. I'd love to do a longer video on that. But yeah, if you have any other questions, let me know. Thank you for listening, and remember that beauty is on the inside. Bye.